Odom, and I am one half of Tiny Revolution. And for this week's vlog, I've decided to really just scale back. I'm not going to use a whole lot of special effects or fading in or anything like that. I really just want to have kind of an authentic face-to-face conversation. A lot of you out there have never met me, you've never been to a workshop where I've spoken, you've never, maybe never even read the blog or been following us for the past few years, but I wanted to take just an opportunity to let you kind of know, I don't know, what gives me the right to talk about all this stuff, I suppose. So very quickly I'll give you a rundown, which of course you can read on our website at www.tinyrevolution.us, but sometimes just a face-to-face is a little bit nicer, a little bit more intimate. So it started back in 2009. My wife and I were looking for a place to live. We both grew up in a very traditional southern environment, and so for us, kind of the next step in life was to buy that starter home. You know, we had everything else, had the job, had the car, that sort of thing. We were looking at starting a family, so we felt like the next logical step was to, in fact, get a home. Well, we went to into town and we found a home that we were really interested in. It wasn't that costly, $82,000 and some change. And so we went and talked to a lender and talked about what our options were. And that's where everything really changed for us, because I knew how much I made, and we knew how much she brought in, and so we kind of had an idea of what our monthly budget could be, reasonably speaking. Well, the amount of money that they were willing to offer us was huge. I mean, absolutely huge. And so we kind of backed away from that. Now, there's a little bit more to the story, some comedy to it. You know, I was kind of macho about it. When they said we could afford the house, I was like, yeah, I am man, hear me roar. You know, I was going to provide for my little lady and all that sort of stuff. But my wife pulled me aside about a day or two later and she said, look, you know, I can give you the good news or I can give you the bad news. I said, well, give me the good news first. And she said, the good news is we can get the house. And man, I was like, yes, we're going to get this house. It's going to be great. We're going to have the whole American dream, if you will. And I said, but what's the bad news? And she said, well, we're not going to be able to have electricity. We won't have food in the pantry. We're not going to be able to have a telephone or internet. You know, we're not going to be able to drive our car. All of these sort of things compounded, and we realized very quickly that this American dream ethos was not going to work for us. We had to look for something different. So, like I say, it was about 2009. Wasn't a lot of information, not like today. Not a lot of information on tiny houses and kind of this small house movement, if you will. So we had to do a lot of work on our own. We had to figure a lot of stuff out, and the only thing out there at that time was really tumbleweed tiny homes and maybe a couple other sites. We relied very heavily on Proto House and that sort of thing. So we kind of cobbled our experiences together. Both of us had traveled extensively in the United States and abroad. So we had seen what was possible for a family, not just to survive, but to thrive. And so we wanted to find something that was going to grow with our family, but also provide us with the needs of the day. And so one night we were just kind of cruising the internet. I say cruising, it was 2009, we weren't really cruising, we were kind of just wading through the internet. And we came across these tiny homes, or tiny house on wheels. And we were both really smitten, because here was this home, it was more than just a box. You know, it had character, it had some pizzazz to it, but it was also mobile. It totally fit in with what we were trying to do in life, or what we wanted to do, what we saw ourselves doing. So we started to explore that more and more, and that's how we decided, in about a week, we decided that we were going to go for it. We were just going to, you know, go into uncharted territory and build one of these tiny house on wheels. And so we just launched. I'm a marketer by trade and a marketer by passion, so I couldn't just do it without letting people know. So we started the website, we started the brand and the blog and everything that is Tiny Revolution, and really just decided that we wanted an open source environment where people could find out everything they wanted to know about tiny houses, because as we were figuring out, there just wasn't a lot of information out there yet, so we wanted to provide that. So that's kind of a background. That kind of tells you why it is I feel like I can answer some of the questions or write some of the blog posts or do some of the videos that we do, yeah, it comes under a lot of scrutiny. We get a lot of comments that don't make us feel that great, and we see a lot of people saying that, you know, since we've had our daughter, we have, you know, subjected her to a less than stellar life, and aren't we ever concerned about her socialization and about the lack of things she has in her life and that sort of stuff. And if you've read any of our minimalist baby series or minimalist toddler, you'll see that she doesn't lack for anything. As you've probably heard a lot of tiny housers say, you know, the world is our living room. So she gets to experience a ton of things that neither my wife nor I got to experience when we were children, and we were pretty rich with experience as well. So it really just, you know, it's kind of a moot point like that. So that's why we kind of talk about tiny house families and such. But I want to point out 3 things, because I think a lot of people in the tiny house community struggle with 3 things. And they're broken down into basically this. You've got your planning and your dreaming. That's stage 1. Then you've got stage 2, which is the building. And then you've got stage 3, which is the living. Now, all 3 of those are very separate entities because they all come with their own challenges and their own rewards and their own difficulties and their own struggles and their own achievements and their own defining moments. Building a tiny house has been probably single-handedly the most defining moment of my life, because it taught me so much about me. It taught me about my spouse. It taught me about my goals. It taught me about budgeting. It taught me about building and using my hands. It taught me tenacity. It taught me you know, just a wealth of things. So I want to encourage you, if you're watching this vlog, I want to encourage you, don't get stuck in any part of the process. Don't feel like you're as far as you can go, or that it's, you know, it's no good, it's never going to work out. You know, there's these legal issues to face. We faced those legal issues. We faced them head on, we faced them with honesty, and we went through them, and we became a legal family living in a tiny house. You know, tax-paying citizens with an address nonetheless. I mean, it is possible. There are stories out there, so don't get discouraged. Also, when you are in that first stage, that dreaming and that planning stage, don't get overwhelmed. You don't have to build to anyone else's standards. You're building to your own standards. Now, I do want to point out, you want to be safe about your build. You want to be smart about your build. You want to align with your own belief system and your own passions while you're dreaming and planning these things. But you don't have to get anyone's approval. It's okay to be different. It's okay to have a house that's totally different. You know, our tiny house was 30 foot long of single level living with a full gourmet kitchen. Hadn't been done before. It's been done in variations since then, but it still stands out as a home that fit us. It fit our needs. It allowed us to live our American dream. Then the second thing is the actual building. Look, folks, let me just tell you, I am not a great builder, but I am a great question asker, and I'm a great listener. And so because of that, I asked a lot of questions. I sought help. I sought advice. And then when I got it, I took hold of it, and I embraced it, and I put it to use. And I would encourage all of you to do the same thing. Ask around. Ask if you can help with other people's builds. Ask if your neighbor who has experience as a contractor or a subcontractor could lend some tips. Don't be afraid, but then also don't be afraid to filter out the good advice from the bad advice. And I'm pretty secure in that most people can filter out good and bad. So don't be afraid of that. And then when it comes time to live, and I talk about this all the time, you're only living for yourself, so to speak. You of course want to be a good steward of the land, a good steward of your finances, a good steward of your time, a good steward of the community, all that sort of stuff. But at the same time, you don't need anyone to define what your success is. That's the cool part of the tiny house movement. It's all about defining for yourself what's good, what's right, and what works. What takes a house to a home, and what allows you to not just survive, but thrive in your environment. So I encourage you, I ask you, please get as much information as you can. Don't get stuck. Just keep pushing through and encouraging yourself and finding people to surround yourself with that will also encourage you. So have a great week. Enjoy every part of this tiny house process. Thank you for reading Tiny Revolution. Thank you for joining our vlog every week. And, you know, I'd love to have a catchy phrase at the end, Viva la Tiny or something like that, but I don't. So we'll see you next week on another video. Again, thank you and have a great week.